Test, 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 test. Testing.
Awesome, thank you.
Get up here.
Like enjoy it while you can, because people will say I'm not tired. I don't want to say about that.
Hi, everyone. Can you all take your seats, please? Oki, Dadanastada, Ambawastich, Tanshe, Tanse, Atilihai. These are the various ways to say hello and welcome in the traditional languages of the original peoples of this land. My name is Tasha Comrie, and I am the VP of Strategic Projects here at Workland Center. Welcome, and thank you for being here. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Tsuut'ina and the Yarhe Nakota, comprised of the Chiniki, Goodstoney, and Bearspaw First Nations. This territory is also home to the Otipemisiwak Métis government of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Battle River Territory, Calgary Nose Hill, and Calgary Elbow Métis Districts 5 and 6. These nations are the original caretakers of this land, and not only the land, but also the sea and the sky and every living being within. They have always understood that the earth is sacred and that we are all connected. A land acknowledgement, therefore, is an act of reciprocity and respect. We thank these nations for reminding us of our collective responsibility to each other, to the land, and to all of creation. I personally would like to acknowledge the land and Mother Earth in general for providing me with the beauty and bounty I have continuously benefited from, and the memories I've created with loved ones by exploring and appreciating nature. At Workland Center, we are reimagining the role of the arts and ensuring their rightful place at the center of civic life. While we refrain from getting political, as our president and CEO, Alex Sarian, wrote in an op-ed yesterday, strong cities, like strong leaders, are defined by collective vision and by the character and integrity that have always made Calgary worth fighting for. We very much look forward to hearing from the candidates tonight and are very proud to support and host tonight's mayoral debate. Before I introduce our next speaker, please note that while photos with no flash are allowed, video is not allowed during the debate. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Lisa Mackay, Director of Storytelling with Rosé Foundation and Project Lead with Creative Calgary, to say a few words.
Thank you, Tasha, and good evening, everyone. So Creative Calgary is a nonpartisan coalition of artists, arts organizations, and engaged Calgarians who advocate for the vital role the arts play in building a vibrant, resilient city. We work to ensure that Calgary's arts sector has a strong public presence, a seat at the table in city-building conversations, and robust municipal support. Around the world, governments are increasingly recognizing that arts and culture are not luxuries, they are essential infrastructure for a healthy society. The benefits of the arts go beyond entertainment. They enhance mental and physical wellness, foster youth development, reduce crime, strengthen social cohesion, and build civic pride. They also drive intercultural understanding and contribute to the vibrancy and livability of the city. The arts are also an economic driver. In 2022, the creative economy generated close to 17,000 jobs, $2.63 billion in direct revenue for local businesses, and $31 million in tax revenue across all three orders of government. In 2024, every dollar invested in the arts by the City of Calgary generated almost $13 in value-added GDP for the province of Alberta. Given their social and economic impacts, it's no wonder that 90% of Calgarians believe access to arts and culture is essential to a high quality of life. Creative Calgary is proud to co-present this debate with partners who understand and respect the value the arts contribute to this city. It's my pleasure now to introduce Mark Garner, Executive Director of Calgary Downtown Association.
I feel like I should have had a longer speech. Great to see everybody here tonight. Everybody, my name is Mark Garner. I'm the Executive Director of the Calgary Downtown Association, and it's a privilege to welcome all the candidates on stage and all of you in the audience tonight. Calgary benefits when more people are engaged in the democracy and in the conversations that help shape the city of our future. The CDA is a proud steward of Calgary's downtown, managing over 102 blocks and 50 million square feet that represent the heart of the city. Downtown is not only the center of business and commerce, but where arts, culture, festivals, and community life all come together. A vibrant downtown is essential to Calgary's competitiveness, and it's central to the prosperity of the entire city. Our work at the CDA is centered on building downtown that is safe, inclusive, vibrant, and welcoming. We are actively supporting local businesses, encouraging residential growth, activating public spaces, and pushing for investment in housing and infrastructure. Because when the heart of the city is strong, all of Calgary is stronger. But we know we have some challenges ahead of us that are real, and the solutions are complex and require entire community to lean in on the actions needed if we're going to change our current path. The safety concerns in our public spaces, the impacts of mental health and addiction, aging infrastructure constantly impact our downtown from being clean, active, and welcoming. And it's in this spirit we're here today to discuss Calgary's future. And to help guide that conversation, we are fortunate to have a truly exceptional moderator in Deborah Yedlin. Deborah is the president and CEO of the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. She joined the Chamber in 2021 after a career that spanned Wall Street, Bay Street, and more than 2 decades as a respected business columnist. She is also a dedicated community leader who has served as the Chancellor of the University of Calgary, co-chaired major city initiatives, including the United Way campaign and the Calgary Cancer Centre fundraising effort. Please join me in welcoming Deborah Yedlin. Keep it going. And
yeah.
You good?
Me to sit? Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks.
There we go. And also at this time, please join me in welcoming our 5 candidates for this evening's discussion: Jeff Davison, Jeremy Farkas, incumbent Mayor Jody Gondek, current Councillor Sonia Sharp, and Brian Thiessen. And thank you all for being here tonight, and I look forward to a fun evening. Deborah.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Tasha and Lisa. Good evening, everyone. It's really great to be here. The last time we did this was during COVID, and we didn't have a live audience, and we were all wearing masks, and so this is a very different experience, and it's just great to be able to do this. This is a very important evening for all of us, for Calgary, and our criteria for candidates this evening was that was the top 5 mayoral candidates leading based on current polls, and we're delighted to welcome all 5 to the stage. I wish you all the best this evening and throughout the balance of the campaign. I would say break a leg, but I did that cycling a couple of weeks ago. It's not that much fun. Better as a metaphor than in real life. So in all seriousness, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all Calgarians for standing for election to serve our city and our community. Public service is a tremendous commitment, requiring sacrifice, hard work, a lot of heart, and a thick skin. I know I speak on behalf of all of Calgary, thanking each of you for putting your names on the ballot, and I acknowledge the many other mayoral and councillor candidates for their sacrifice and dedication as well. Tonight, Calgarians will have the opportunity to hear directly from our city's candidates, learn about their platforms, and ask questions that matter most. To ensure we're asking the questions that matter to you, if you would like to ask the candidates a question, please text the number on your screen. And for our audience, the question currently being answered will be displayed on the screens behind me, alongside the phone number to which you can submit questions for the candidates. And I have my phone too, so I'll be getting the questions to my phone. So we'll start with a round of introductions. Each of you will have 1 minute. Following that, we will get to questions. I'll ask a question, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. And following this, each candidate will have 1 minute for a rebuttal and response to other candidates' answers. We will have time for 4 questions. The order in which you will respond has been randomized. And concluding our debate, each candidate will have time for 2 minutes of closing comments. For each response, I will notify you when you have 15 seconds remaining by raising my hand. And once your time allotment has been reached, I will interrupt you and your mic will be cut to ensure all candidates have equal opportunity to be heard. Brevity is what we're aiming for. Candidate mics will only be live during their allotted time to avoid interruptions and ensure all candidates have equal time to speak. And I would be remiss to not acknowledge that while the purpose of debates is to invite spirited discussion, and we invite audience participation by submitting questions, we ask all those on stage and in the audience to maintain respect and dignity for each other. I will not hesitate to interrupt or address an inappropriate or disrespectful comment. So with those ground rules, thank you for being here, and we'll start with introductions. You each have a minute to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running. Mr. Davison, we'll start with you. You have 1 minute.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight. Thank you to all our presenting sponsors for hosting this. It's a really important discussion to be having. My name is Jeff Davison, and I'm asking to be your mayor. And I want to start by saying Calgary is the greatest city on earth. We just want to keep going that way. You know, tonight we're going to talk about infrastructure and affordability, and we're going to talk about public safety. But I want to leave you with one thought here. Who do you trust? Because that's what this election comes down to. Do you trust the people that have said one thing and then done another? Do you trust the people that have had 4 years to get things done in our city, but we don't see much change? So tonight I'm asking you to think about leadership, experience, and vision. Where is Calgary going as a city? Because this election isn't just about today, it's about tomorrow. So my name is Jeff Davison. I'm asking to be your mayor, and with your help, I think we can build a safe and affordable city of opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Sharp, you're next.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight and those that are watching on TV. I'm Sonia Sharp, and I'm running to be your next mayor. I'm not running on a personal or ideological agenda. I'm running on a to-do list, a list I've compiled over the last 4 years with thousands of conversations with Calgarians. 3 of those things are repeal blanket rezoning, 500 new police officers, downtown safety, and bring administration to heel. And what that means is we really need to focus on the governance structure of City Hall. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight, and if we don't start letting administration know they report to City Council and you report to us, none of the things we talk about tonight are actually going to happen. When I talk about the 500 police officers that we want to hire and bring it up to the national average, we're talking about keeping your community safe, keeping your children safe, making sure our trains are safe, and making sure you can come to venues like this and enjoy the arts, and we're making sure you're safe. So I'm Sonia Sharp, and I'm looking for your support tonight to be your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Mr. Thiessen.
Calgary is facing a crisis of leadership. Our economy is under attack from Washington tariffs. Our autonomy is under attack from a premier who treats Calgary like her personal ATM. But our biggest threat is a city council and a mayor who failed to fight when Danielle Smith gave away $1 billion on an arena deal, who failed to fight when Danielle Smith defunded our police when she removed photo radar, who failed to fight when Danielle Smith eliminated and redrew the green line with a crayon on a cocktail napkin. I'm here, thank you. I'm here to deliver real results, not photo ops. For 30 years as a lawyer, I navigated clients through crisis and delivered results. As chair of the Calgary Police Commission, I delivered leadership when the service needed it most. I'm here to earn your trust and your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Gondek.
Calgary is on the verge of its next great chapter. We have the momentum, the talent, and the vision to be Canada's most desirable and livable city, but only with strong leadership to guide us. Momentum is hard fought, and it's so quickly broken. All of the progress that we have achieved over time can easily be unraveled if we allow empty rhetoric and polarized politics to divide us. Strong cities, just like strong leaders, don't choose between fixing what's in front of them or building what's next. We don't choose between affordability and achievement or safety and innovation. We do both. Over the last 4 years, I have shown you what strong, determined leadership looks like. I have ensured that our city can progress into a future that works for all of us. I am running for mayor because I believe in building this city's future on purpose with all of you. I'm Jyoti Gondek, and I look forward to your support.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Farkas.
Thank you. My granny Liz had the hardest but most important job in the city. She was a school teacher in Forest Lawn. She believed in her kids, and she believed in the promise of Calgary, that if you worked hard, you showed up for your neighbor, you will succeed. Over the next 4 years, we will grow to be a city of 2 million people. Yet too many of us today, here and now, are falling behind, feeling unsafe, and losing trust in City Council. Over the past 10 years, you've seen me grow up. From a kid growing up in Dover, to a city councillor and police commissioner, to a nonprofit CEO serving on the front lines of the social sector. The challenges that we're facing as a city are doable. We can rise to this moment, we can rise to this challenge. And I'm running to ensure that Calgary remains safe, affordable, and ready for the future so that we can live up to the promise of our city.
Thank you all. And so now we will dive into our questions. So we've received several questions from the audience on safety, so we'll start there. A majority of Calgarians, 82%, believe safety in the downtown core has declined, and 72% feel the same citywide. Businesses report that safety and social disorder are affecting their operations. What is your plan to address these challenges, particularly in downtown Calgary? And how will you collaborate with businesses, social agencies, and law enforcement to ensure our city remains a safe, welcoming place for residents, workers, and visitors? And Ms. Sharp, we'll start with you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for the question. So safety is a top priority of my campaign. And with Communities First, we just got endorsed by the Calgary Police Association on our pledge for 500 police officers and a downtown police station that will operate 24/7. The biggest thing about safety in our city is if you don't have a safe city, you have nothing. And people won't move here, people will leave here. And you know, when I talked about at the beginning here about coming to some of these venues downtown, you won't want to come to these venues. You won't want to join sports teams downtown. The biggest thing is about getting downtown safely, and it's also cooperating with our transit officers, with our police officers, and making sure our train system is safe. The biggest thing about collaborating with some of our partners is making sure they're leading. So when we talk about decentralization of the drop-in center, they need to be leading those changes. When we talk about the Sheldon Schumer injection site, I have called on the province to make those changes and look for opportunity of land around the city so we can make sure that people are taken care of. So when we talk about small business, when we talk a lot about what we can do to support small business, is if we make our city safer for us to shop at those local businesses, they're not putting the expense back on you by getting shutters, extra security. They need to operate. They not just need to keep their business owners safe, their employees safe, but you as patrons safe. And our downtown is the heart of our city. If we don't keep downtown safe, how do we ever expect our downtown to thrive? And with that, it's actually bleeding out to the other communities. And so I know we focus on downtown, but as a Ward 1 councillor, I have seen safety issues in my ward. And I've worked tirelessly the last 4 years to make it one of the most safest communities in Calgary, where people feel like they can walk at night in the dark to their cars, to the facilities and back. So my promise to the city is you will be the safest city in Canada when I'm your mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Mr. Davison, what's your plan to address safety concerns in Calgary?
Well, thank you. I think it's a big issue. I was actually in one of Sonya's communities where they have tent cities popping up. People are being attacked in parks and drug use is out of control. You know, what's actually interesting about the safety plan is I don't think we've actually agreed that we all have the same problem. And so what I've proposed is a pilot program right here in Calgary. I think we have the brightest minds in the world here, and we're capable of solving big problems. But what we need to do is get together and agree that we have the same problem. And that's where we bring all three orders of government together. You know, from a provincial standpoint to talk about mental health and addiction, from a federal standpoint to talk about bail reform, from a local standpoint talking about policing and how we deal with the criminals themselves. But it's also about the wraparound care, the support side of all those community agencies that are out there doing the work on the front lines, supporting our officers. At the end of the day, we focus a lot on the downtown and we think that a lot of the problems there, but I promise you, we are seeing it across our city. I've had the privilege of talking to so many communities that have said, it's right here, it's in my alley, I don't want to take the bus. Our transit drivers are being attacked. People are defecating on C trains. We have open drug use in the plus 15s. It's a big challenge, but it's going to take all of us coming together to figure out what's the problem and what is our own individual roles and how we solve that problem. Collectively, I actually think Calgary can help lead North America out of this challenge. But it first is all about the sit-down agreement, and then how do we stay in our individual lanes in order to solve what I think is the biggest problem in Calgary today.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Gondak, you are up next for your 2 minutes.
One of the most important things that we realized when it came to public safety is ensuring that we had an integrated response model. That means making sure that our peace officers, our transit officers, Calgary Police Service, and our outreach teams were working closely together and collaborating on addressing the criminal activity as well as crisis issues that were unfolding on our streets. As a result of that, we started to see improvement in public safety downtown, but the work isn't done yet. That kind of collaboration is incredibly important. It was also important for us to invest in more transit and peace officers, which is something that we've done over this last term. We reopened a downtown police station to make sure that people had that presence that they were looking for. The business community asked for that loud and clear, and we delivered. There's more we can do, though. One of the last things that we did as a council this term is made our bylaw stronger against open drug use. So we passed a decision that said we will not make open drug use something that is normalized. We are banning it. And for anyone that gets that type of a violation ticket, they will go to community court. Community court offers them the supports they need to address the root problem, whether it's homelessness, mental health struggles, or addiction. It's a compassionate way to make sure that we are keeping our streets safe and addressing the core needs of people who need some help. The other thing we need to do is ensure that we have high acuity housing. Patricia Jones, who is the CEO of Calgary Homeless Foundation, once said, there are some people that we failed in utero. And her meaning is that there are people that are going to need supports throughout their life. Many of those people are out on the streets downtown, and they're doing things like lighting fires in lobbies, and they're repeating a lot of these things because they need proper supports. High acuity housing is the way to get those folks off the street, get them supports, and create safety for all of us.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. Mr. Farkas, how will you address safety concerns? 2 minutes.
Thank you. My safety plan is called Built for Belonging, and it's available at ourpathforward.ca. And it proposes a path forward on the logjam that we've seen right now. We've seen a bit of a competition of two different ideologies, pitting compassion versus enforcement. And my safety plan marries the two. We know that there's a significant immediate safety and security issues that Calgarians are feeling, especially in transit, especially in downtown. My plan calls for reopening the major downtown police station, which was closed about 7 years ago. It calls for significant increases to police presence as well as transit officers. It also calls for audits of some of the public spaces. But this isn't a policing issue alone. We know that it's about 50 to 100 individuals who are responsible for the vast majority of repeat violent offenses, attacks against people and property. We need to crack down on those individuals through sentencing and bail reforms, but we also have to maintain compassion. We have to ensure that we're continuing to invest in upstream supports to be able to prevent individuals from reaching crisis in the first place. So that's why my plan also calls for not just strengthening frontline policing, but also expanding those prevention programs, addressing the root causes of crime. So if people don't feel safe, nothing really matters. So if we can address that, not just in the downtown, but in the outlying communities and move past this debate of compassion versus enforcement and marry the two, that's how we move forward in addition to the many excellent recommendations being made by the Downtown Safety Leadership Table.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Thiessen, please share your plans to address safety concerns in the city. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. When I've talked to Calgarians, they've told me they don't feel safe downtown or on transit. And I know I always think back to several police chiefs who've said to me when I was chair of the commission, you cannot police your way out of these issues. So I sat down with 30 mental health and addiction agencies, and I asked them what they would prioritize. And they said, housing first, 24/7 mental health and addiction specialists integrated with Calgary Police and Transit Police. And then I met with the executive of the Calgary Police Service, and I asked them what they thought about our plan. And they told me, Brian, not only are you on track, but we worked on this for 4 years. We brought it to the Calgary Police Commission. It was called Reach Up. It was an integrated 24/7 mental health and addiction center with a location in the Beltline, and it was ready to go. So not only do all the experts in policing and safety agree with our plan, but they also have a plan to execute on day one. So let's talk about housing first. It's been done. Finland did it, and they tracked their costs. And 2 things they found. First of all, a housing first strategy is both the compassionate thing to do, housing our homeless. It also results in more success in treating addiction and mental health issues. And we believe it will save us about $100,000 per person per year by pursuing a housing first strategy. Second, 24/7 mental health and addiction units, the Alpha House help teams. Everyone told us, don't duplicate it, Brian, just fund them. They're only operating during business hours, let's do it 24/7, and let's house them with Transit Police and Calgary Police. So that's what we are proposing in our public safety toolkit. And we're also proposing real bylaws to prohibit public consumption of drugs so that
Mr.
people can be
Thiessen?
referred to the community
Brian?
courts. Thank you.
I'll raise my hand with 15 seconds to go.
Sorry,
so
I'm
you can
looking.
It's hard to see the clock off to the side.
Yes, I know. I just will watch my hand.
Okay.
15 seconds.
If you raise your hand at us, we're all going to get scared.
So now we're going to move into the response and rebuttal in the same order. You'll each have 1 minute to respond, and again, I will raise my hand when you have 15 seconds remaining. Ms. Sharp?
You just want me, sorry, just to rebuttal to something I've heard about?
You can
Okay.
respond and rebut.
I think what
to
I would
something
like
that
to understand from one of my opponents, I've been pretty clear and I spelt out my to-do list since I decided to run for mayor. And I just feel like his platform, and Mr. Farkas, I'm talking about you, looks very different than what you would have voted for 4 years ago. And so I think it's really important for you to come clean tonight on some of these things. So your safety plan talks a lot about stuff that I don't think you would have brought forward 4 years ago, but you're not talking about hiring more police officers. You're talking about the downtown police station that was closed during your tenure. But I'd just like to understand where you stand on some of these issues, because it seems very different than it was 4 years ago, and I think Calgarians need to understand your position compared to now.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Mr. Davidson?
No, Mr. Farkas.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
I'm,
not
I
me
have,
this
I,
time.
That's
I have an order.
Oh, you have an order. Okay.
You have to wait.
Deb's the boss.
Yeah,
Deb's the boss.
Deb,
Deb, I didn't see your hand.
don't ask how she broke her foot.
That's right. I have a crutch,
Yeah,
remember?
exactly. All I would ask, guys, I'll poll the audience here. I mean, do you feel safer today than you felt 4 years ago? No. Well, I think when you talk to Calgarians, most of them don't. And that is actually the challenge that I see, is that we've had 4 years of going through what we're seeing on the streets today. We've had 4 years of demanding for safer transit. We've had 4 years of needing new police officers. We've had 4 years of seeing deteriorating tent cities and communities. All due respect to City Council, how come you figured out it's an election and all of a sudden we have plans? Where have you been for 4 years?
Ms. Gonda, you have a minute.
I think it's important to remember that the situation that we're facing is not one that's going to be solved with one answer alone. And it's certainly not going to be one that a single organization or a single order of government can resolve. And that's why collaboration is incredibly important. It was great to work with the provincial government on this concept of reach up, but in the end, they simply couldn't get to where they needed to be. We have been asking for a better answer on mental health and addictions. I have spoken with Minister Wilson twice now since he's been new to the file and said, you've got to tell us how you're going to provide more supportive care around mental health and addiction. That work takes time, and it takes a willing partner, and sometimes you need to keep pushing them.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. Mr. Farkas.
Thank you. There's just some material inaccuracies of what was said. The downtown police station was closed the month prior to me taking office in 2017, and following that I advocated for strong support for specific groups, advocating for the trans community, advocating for, during my time as a councillor for a ban on conversion therapy, championing the reopening of the downtown police station. I was also one of the co-signers with former Mayor Nahad Nenshi on the Community Action on Mental Health and Addiction Strategy. I think it was a big mistake for City Council to make significant reductions to mental health supports in the same month that they funded the arena. And I think that it's very important for us to continue to invest in the preventative measures. I know as a social sector CEO, I know having served on the boards of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Alex and the others, is that we need to invest in that social infrastructure so that we're preventing crisis before Calgarians end up in it.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Thiessen.
You know, I'd just like to point out that when the province eliminated photo radar, which has a significant safety effect for Calgarians at our most dangerous intersections, Councillor Sharp passed the motion to pass that cost on to all of you. That was $28 million. Let me give you some perspective. Over the 4 years I was chair of the commission, we fought for a $25 million annual increase, and the Premier eliminated that with one fell swoop of her pen, and Sonia passed on the cost to all of you. That's 7% of the police budget. Now she's fighting for 500 police, when the Calgary Police Commission, the civilian oversight body responsible for police budgets, and the CPS executive have not requested that number. So that will cost you another $100 million in spin-up costs and operational, and $80 million a year after that. So I'm wondering, how can you be fiscally responsible and pursue this action?
Thank
Spicy,
you.
hey?
Yes, spicy. Not that I expected anything less. That concludes our first question. We'll have the second question come up, and it'll follow the same format, different order in terms of who's speaking. So fingers on your buzzers, as Colin McLean used to say, and reach for the top. Calgary's vibrancy, including the arts and culture sector, plays a central role in attracting talent, investment, and visitors, and is an economic driver, contributing over $3 billion annually to our economy. Yet many organizations face chronic underfunding and rising operating costs. If elected, how will you support Calgary's vibrancy, including arts and culture, and ensure Calgary continues to build a globally recognized creative economy that anchors our city's vibrancy long-term? Mr. Thiessen, we'll start with you this time.
Thank you, and I'll try to see your eye,
Okay.
or your wave. Listen, as I met with the arts and the creative industry around Calgary, they talked about how good we are at building really remarkable facilities like this, but how they really need stable, dependable funding for operational needs. The funding that keeps artists supported and allows companies to produce the shows that go into these centers. So I'm committed to providing stable, dependable operational funding, to increase funding to CADA, and providing grants to non-arts organizations to subsidize hiring musicians. I want to expand the Meanwhile Lease program that allows spaces that aren't used by landlords to be used by artists. And I want to work with C-Space to create new cultural hubs. And finally, as I met with artists this week, I was struck about what an impact supporting the creative economy would have. And I thought about how we have OSIF, a fund created to support tech companies that was created by CED and the City of Calgary to build up tech companies and fund them to establish them in our market, and it's been quite a success. I think we should create a similar fund for the creative arts to fund creative businesses as they start up so artists can earn a living while they're waiting for the next show to be on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Ms. Gondek.
It was a privilege in my last term on council to be the champion for the arts and to make sure that I was able to demonstrate to my colleagues why voting in favor of increased funding to the arts was good. And I built that argument in several ways. There was folks that already believed, and that was easy. And then I spoke to people and I said, early childhood development really hinges on exposure to the arts. Our kids need to be able to access these places and spaces to grow their minds. I talked about newcomer settlement and how much more successful it is when you have a strong arts and culture scene. And as a result, last term, we increased funding to the arts in a way that had never been seen before. And we continue to provide that increased funding now into this term. And it's important to make sure you're working with your colleagues to do the things that the city can, but it's also important to work with the business community. And I can tell you that Creative Calgary has said, we're looking for you as the mayor to be a champion for the return of corporate support for the arts as well. And I'm very happy to do that. I know we have a lot of philanthropists in this city. We are beneficiaries in this facility of so much philanthropic support. I think working with philanthropists to get the business community back involved in the arts is going to be key to the future. Another thing that has been pointed out to us is that logistics and safety around events and festivals is something that's gotten increasingly more expensive. So the arts community could really use a hand from the city on that. Certainly something that I'm willing to look into. Venues, especially music venues. This is something that we need to be doing more of. We need to make sure that our bylaws are not so prohibitive that we can't have amazing arts and culture experiences in venues across the city. And I've been such a believer in the arts. I think you all know my investment is true and my support is real.
Thank you, Ms. Godek. Mr. Farkas, how will you support vibrancy and ensure Calgary grows our world-renowned creative economy? 2 minutes.
Thank you. And as somebody who grew up in East Calgary and Forest Lawn, I always felt that the arts was something that happened somewhere else to somebody else. Growing up as a kid, I could never have afforded to be in the seats right now to be able to see a show. And it was only as I grew older in life that I started to realize that the value that it brought, not just in terms of bringing people together, but enabling us to have a shared story of the city, as well as to better embrace the individual dignity. But what I didn't realize was just that the arts meant business. So when you actually take a look at everything that's involved in putting on a stage play or production, there's a significant amount of talent and expertise behind that. My North Star in my campaign is preparing Calgary to be that city of 2 million people. You know, at 2 million people, we cannot afford to be so focused on any one singular industry, and it's going to be the arts that is going to be able to help us rise to that challenge. So how do we execute? How do we pull it off? I very much support investment in the larger facilities, but I really think we got to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. The arts needs to be relevant in every community, in every single corner of the city. It can't be something that just happens in this space. It has to be venues like the National Access Arts Centre. It has to be the Evergreens. It has to be the Wildflowers, the Loose Mooses, the Burns Visual Arts Society. Like, it has to be out in the community, and I think that's what I'm hoping to be able to bring as your next mayor. Somebody who can communicate the value, talk about it not just being a nice to have, but in a core essential service for us to be able to rise through the moment. Not just to be able to meet some of the challenges we have around the economy, but also safety and connection between each other.
Thank you. Mr. Davison, you're up to bat.
You know, it's funny because everything Jeremy said, I remember him voting against when we were on council together, so that was interesting. Let's be clear. Flip-Flop Farkas has a different plan, but I'll start with vibrancy and arts is the question. And the funny thing is you don't have vibrancy without the arts, and you're not a world-class city without the arts. And I remember being part of CADA's largest investment back when we were on city council, and it wasn't just because we argued placemaking. It wasn't because we just argued about the vibrancy creation. It's also a 7-to-1 economic return in our city, and we fail to remember that the arts contribute back to the economy of Calgary. And that's really, really important. And for me, having developed things like the Entertainment and Cultural District, really having a vision for Calgary about how we give more local artists ability and spaces to create and help Calgary thrive is incredibly important to me. The film industry I've been a part of the film industry for the better part of 15, 20 years now. And it was just an honor when I got on council to be able to say, look, we need investment in infrastructure. We need investment in incentive. We need to look at how we draw talent to Calgary. And that investment alone, when we asked council, I went to council and stood there and said, help me buy the film center. I promise you we can get back to being Hollywood North. I promise you we can create an industry. The one outstanding vote on that was Jeremy voted against it. And that vote against it, had we have not done it, would never have happened where we had the largest television production in history right here in Calgary. So vibrancy is absolutely key. Building into the arts is key. Supporting local is key. I want to be a world-class city, and that means we make an investment in the arts, period, full stop.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Sharp,
Yeah, thank you.
you're up.
Well, a thriving art community brings so much investment into our city. And, you know, when I opened, I talked a lot about public safety and what it means for people to come down to these venues. And you think about an artist that is walking the streets of Calgary with, you know, an instrument, or they're trying to get to work, they're trying to start their career. If we don't have a safe city on our streets, everyone suffers. And so we need to make sure that the whole city and the things we put forward work for everybody. And there's really important things when we talk about the venues we're building. They're all downtown. And we need to make sure people are getting here safely. And we talk a lot about art. And when I was in administration, I worked on Film Friendly. And so what Mr. Davison is saying about bringing film here, it was my small, mighty team, business and local economy team, and shout out to the group that's doing it now, that removed the barriers for these groups to come here. We were the ones that made sure roads and all of these places were working together to get the permits they needed to film the films that are coming to Calgary. Now, what people don't realize is how much art actually supports our local businesses. How many local businesses do you go to and you see art on the wall or music playing and they're local artists? So art in the city is just being part of our city. It shouldn't be and or. It needs to be yes. And that's what's important about when we're looking at budget. It shouldn't be an item that you don't support. And I know ex-Councillor Farkas didn't support the art. So again, I'm going to go back to what is he actually saying now after 4 years, because he didn't support anything, and now it's all about the art. I would say that one thing that I was really proud of is getting Contemporary Calgary at the table this last budget. They were kind of left to the sideline and not supported. So I was part of the motion to make sure they got the funding, and they're going to be a partner at the table moving forward. And art should never be an option. It's a yes. That's it.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the opening remarks for this second question. And now we'll move into the response and rebuttal in the same order. You have a minute to respond. I will raise my hand with 15 seconds. And Mr. Thiessen, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. You know, I'm all about personal growth, and I admire Mr. Farkas's journey. But I will say this. that Mr. Davison only covered part of his record. He voted against the major funding strategy for institutions like this one. He voted against Arts Commons. In 2020, he brought a motion for a $5 million cut to CADA. That would have been 44% of CADA's budget. So I just want to say it's great that you've discovered the arts, but you need to back that with real action, like we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta say, I love this.
Sorry, were you waving again?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, good.
You came in under budget.
Okay,
it's okay.
good.
It's all good. Good conduct.
As I will.
You know, one of the things about creating Vibrancy is that it takes investment. And if you think about our culture and entertainment district, one of the things that we invested in is an arena. And while Mr. Farkas is saying it was a bad idea, did you know that it attracted 3 hotel deals, Marriott hotel deals? That's how you create a strong tax base. If you want to talk about walking and chewing gum, think about the fact that the investments that you make in this city generate more private sector investment. That's exactly how we grew the Rivers District. And that's the kind of investment you were too afraid to make back then, and you're still criticizing us for making an investment now. You're fearful of making investment, and you don't understand how things work when it comes to creating vibrancy.
Okay, Mr. Farkas.
I get 1 minute.
You've got a minute.
I think leadership means being willing to show up on a stage like this and admit that you're wrong, right? I've made mistakes and I've learned. I think it means having the courage to say that you're wrong, that you've learned, right? It doesn't make you a flip-flopper, it just means you have a working brain. So I showed my commitment to the arts by having the courage to be releasing our arts policy as the very first thing immediately after launching my candidacy. I had the courage to lean in terms of specific actionable investments, ways that it can be not just Arts Commons. Like for me, growing up as a kid in East Calgary, this wasn't the arts. I never knew anybody who had a piano in their house, but I want kids out there, no matter which corner of the city you're from, to have the ability to have great experiences like this. So again, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to admit my mistakes and admit when I'm wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Davison, you have a minute.
You know, I actually just want to address something Sonia said, and I actually want to say thank you to administration, because often as City Council, we come up with ideas, but it's actually the people behind the scenes that deserve the credit to getting those things done. So largely in part leading the idea of where our film industry went, a lot of that is supported by the tens of thousands of people that work at the City of Calgary each and every day that just want to make life better for all of us. So thank you to them for doing their job. Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Sharp.
I'm going to address something actually from the last question about fiscal restraint, if that's okay. When the $28 million gap came that Mr. Thiessen was talking about, that didn't add anybody's taxes. That came from a reserve, so unfortunately that was incorrect. And the police officers, the budget, it's unfortunate because Mr. Thiessen was asked to retire from the police commission because 2,300 members didn't want him there, but we won't talk about that. But what I'll say is, if anybody wants to look at fiscal restraint, why don't we look at our disclosure statements? Some people sitting up here are in a deficit. Some of us are not. Some members of actually, or opponents of mine, have spent more money than I've even raised. So when we talk about fiscal restraint, all you got to do is look at my history. So Mr. Thiessen, I'm sorry, but you were wrong about the 28 million, and you're wrong about the police funding, because we can find the 75 million in corporation to pay for those officers, and that's why it was supported. So please be careful.
What's next? What's next? I'll check my phone and I will tell you. That concludes our second question, and we'll move on to our third question, which is about infrastructure and housing. We're getting a lot of questions about infrastructure keeping pace with our population growth. Calgary currently faces a $7 billion infrastructure deficit. The question is, what is your plan to prioritize, fund, and deliver the projects our city needs, from transit to water mains, while balancing fiscal responsibility, future growth, and long-term city building? And how will you manage the associated construction to minimize disruption, whether it's Marda Loop or 9th Avenue? Ms. Gondek, we'll start with you.
Thanks for the question. The first thing that you have to do is recognize that you've got this kind of a deficit and what brought it about. And it was years of cuts to the budget that led us to be in this situation. So we have reinvested as a council over the last 4 years. We have made sure we have committed to ensuring that our water system is safe and strong. We've made sure that monitoring and maintenance and upgrades and replacements are top of mind. We have approved the funding to ensure that. We have reinvested into pavement quality, which is something that has suffered dramatically over the last few years. We have reinvested into snow clearing. Those are the types of core services that you expect to be providing you with the service that you need. We've invested heavily into transit. We finally got shovels in the ground on the Green Line. We have approved the funding for the Blue Line to be extended up to the airport, so you have that connection to downtown. Those are the things that we have done. The things that we need to continue doing are making sure that we're investing in the infrastructure in your communities. As a start, I brought a motion to allocate $20 million towards unfunded community-based projects, things like your community rinks, your fire halls, your parks, your splash pads, and that money helped to fund 8 projects. That's just a start. We need to be better about understanding how to help you in your communities, and that also means that we need to coordinate construction. Dig once, get all the utilities done, pave once. This business of coming back to do it over and over again doesn't work for anybody. So in the next term, we will make sure that vendors understand how they need to deliver the service in keeping with what the community expects.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. Mr. Farkas, how will you prioritize funds and deliver projects the city needs?
So I think one of my major focuses as mayor will have Calgary lean in at the center of a strong United Team Canada. I think we need a local procurement approach. We need to be buying locally when and wherever possible. We need to make it easier for local vendors. One of my challenges, say with the art program, which we had mentioned, was the difficulty for local artists to be able to bid on projects. When I was a member of council, I worked very closely with the Tsuut'ina Nation and Indigenous artists to make it easier for them to navigate our procurement challenges. But it's not just how we procure, it's also what we build. Right now, there's a big focus on the very large facilities, the things like the Arts Commons, the things like the arena, all these things that we're going to need. But we're really falling short when it comes to the community street level infrastructure. So it's very difficult to be able to say that we're building everything that we need when every year the Inglewood Pool is fighting for survival, when we still don't have the investment that we need to be able to build the National Access Arts Centre, when Vekova is closing, and when we actually don't have a reliable water main infrastructure. Calgary's the only major city with a leakage rate of upwards of 25%. So 25% of the water that we produce in our water treatment plants are actually lost due to the aging nature. We still have wooden pipes, we still have lead pipes, we still have asbestos pipes. I partnered with Councillor Farrell in 2018 to accelerate the process. Council ultimately didn't continue with that in 2021. So I'd be looking to be able to do the big things and the small things, and ultimately invest in the infrastructure that's required for us to continue to meet growth, but hopefully overall lower the long-term costs for Calgarians. Because if we can fix those pipes, we could potentially reduce the rates that Calgarians have to pay by a quarter, a third, or more.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Oh, is that right? Okay. Ms. Sharp, what are your that is way better. What are your plans to prioritize, fund, and deliver the projects our city needs while balancing fiscal responsibility and future growth? Your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much. So I think what's important is we look at what we have, and we have to have a bit of a fix-it-first mentality before we throw good money after bad. I have pledged to open an infrastructure planning office, which is going to have an industry council and a business council work together. And what I'm hearing from the industry, so I have a construction background, is that really a lot of things in uncertainty. Like they're not certain on timelines. They're not certain about tendering. They're not certain about project. And what happens is those costs are actually put on you so that when things are certain, they know when they can deliver it. And so what we do need is more oversight and more fiscal restraint on projects at the start, during, and after. So the Infrastructure Planning Office is something that myself and my Communities First group is planning on bringing forward and making sure that the people at the table are the people in the industry that understand the business the best, and having key, I would say, leaders in the administration that are also part of those conversations and unsiloing some of the things that are happening. And Marda Loop is one of those places where things were kind of happening back and forth. But the other big thing that's important is how much this construction affects small business. And that is actually what we're seeing more than anything in the city. Everywhere we go, a business is closing its doors because of the construction that's happening. And then we get a bad reputation about construction in Calgary and can't have a business. And these conversations happen all over the place, and it's sending a signal across the province. So with that, we're hoping that this will have a better project delivery, timeline certainty, and expediting, obviously, the permits as well, and making sure projects get tendered and quick to the finish line, and that citizens are actually not getting the cost put on them because of uncertainty.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Mr. Thiessen, you're up.
Thank you. I'm proposing pretty significant investments in infrastructure. Here's how we got here. Previous councils had kept property tax low by defunding infrastructure. And so what happened is we have now a $6 billion infrastructure deficit. So we're going to pay the bills for those previous budgets. The city has collected the fees to inspect and maintain the water mains, but this council didn't inspect and maintain them, and we had a major water main failure. So we're looking at investing in infrastructure, we're looking at fixing the potholes, increasing the number of crews who are working on that, and we're the only party that's proposing a comprehensive water utility. Because Mr. Farkas is right, 22% of our water leaks into the ground every year, treated water. To give you a comparison, Edmonton's is 5%. They created an independent water utility, put all their water assets in EPCOR, and they're managing it effectively. We can do the same, create a standalone water utility that manages our water infrastructure and is owned by the city, and get the water expertise concentrated back in one department. They're spread around the whole city admin right now. Secondly, nobody's talking about the businesses, the small businesses in Marda Loop and Bridgeland. And I gotta tell you, we need to do better by those small businesses. They are the engines of our economy. We have a dig once policy. We have a committee at City Hall that's supposed to coordinate those utilities. We're gonna mandate a dig once policy. All the utilities coordinating so small businesses in Marda Loop and Bridgeland aren't forced to go under because the road keeps getting dug up. Secondly, we want a dashboard so small businesses can see how projects are progressing. Thank you.
You just have to talk faster. Mr. Davison, what's your plan?
Well, the question is really about how do we manage growth, and for a city that's growing by 70,000 people a year, we've got to start thinking about how we do things differently, because Brian's right, when the water stops working, we failed as a city. When 40% of our roads have fallen into disrepair, we failed to manage the roads. It's the big and the small, but it starts with partnering with industry, actually creating the certainty and security that investors need. There's a lot going on in our city, and a lot is held back because of bad timing, poor decisions at City Hall. And so what we actually need to do is put forward a plan to build faster, right? When we talk about an affordability crisis and we talk about a housing crisis, those things are relatively self-inflicted. And so how do we get to the table faster? Well, we can partner with some of those bigger companies who have a reputation of doing what they said they're going to do. And how do we get buildings out of the ground faster? Right now, it's taking about 8 years to get an affordable housing unit out of the ground. That's not acceptable, right? And I'll give you a good example of how we can manage growth differently. As the former city councillor in Ward 6, we put in 3 new districts on the west side, Springbank Hill, West District, and the project at Winsport. All 3 of those projects will add 55,000 residents to the west side. We've done that inside of 6 years. Those projects are largely 60% now completed. That's how you manage growth, because what we've done is actually build in difference of product type. We've offered amenities, there's parks, there's affordability built in. We've got to start thinking about that investment that the private sector is making and let them build Calgary for us rather than dictating reasons why we can't get to the table fast. That's holding our city back, personally.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. It's now time for the response and rebuttal section. So same order as we had before during the questions. So Mrs. Gondek, you have the floor. You have a minute.
Yeah, there's a comment made about how we're not talking about small business. Not only are we talking about small business, I've been speaking with small business. I worked with small business to figure out how we were going to do the Stephen Avenue construction project better. We were attempting to do road work in the middle of their best tourism season. And by bringing together the businesses that were going to suffer with our administration, we were able to put a path forward together that allowed for those businesses to stay open during a peak season and for the work to get done. That was a very collaborative process, and I feel that sometimes our administration needs to be bringing businesses to the table a lot earlier. Same thing in Bridgeland. When we heard from Luke Strugmart that they were quite concerned about what was happening, I went and met with them, went back and met with administration, and as a result, there was a lengthy meeting between administration and those businesses, and we resolved the problem. People need to talk to each other.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. Mr. Farkas.
Calgary has never been good at keeping pace with growth. Over the next 4 years, one of us on the stage is going to be the mayor to welcome the 2 millionth Calgarian. This is a significant challenge, especially on emergency services. Many of us had the opportunity to sit down with our Calgary Fire Department colleagues. We have to continue to ensure that we're building complete communities. It's unacceptable to allow for unprecedented greenfield sprawl without actually the enabling infrastructure in place. We need to right-size the actual costing of that to ensure that that's sustainable. And we also have to be thinking about infrastructure not just in terms of bricks and mortar, but also the social infrastructure. And that's part of why in my safety plan, I'm calling for a social sector surge. The idea of funding family and community support services to the tune of a mega project to be able to ensure that we're ready to be able to meet the demands of those Calgarians.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Ms. Sharp.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm going to address the leaky water pipes that keep calling Councillor Farkas, I'm sorry, Mr. Farkas talked about, and I'm going to take you back to November 2020, when you seconded the report that actually gave you a heads up that the increased water loss in Calgary's distribution was happening. Mm-hmm. So where have you been for 4 years? And now this is a thing, all of a sudden you want to talk about water leakage? And so I would like to know why this is a thing for you now, and you passed a report knowing that there was a heads up. You seconded the motion. And so if this was a thing 4 years ago, why aren't you coming up with a solution? I've come up with an infrastructure planning office to make sure we can focus on construction, water leakage, root causes to our crumbling infrastructure. I just don't understand. Again, different focus 4 years ago from today. So I just had to bring that to your attention because you seconded that motion that gave you the heads up, and now you're campaigning on it.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Mr. Thiessen, you're up.
Thank you. I think we need to talk a little bit about budgets. For Councillor Sharp, reserve funds are still taxpayer dollars. And when she heads up the arena deal negotiations and her friend Danielle Smith gives her $300 million, That is also our money. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Mr. Davison, you have a minute.
Well, I haven't stopped laughing yet, so that's great, Brian.
So maybe you should catch your breath.
I'll tell you this. No Calgarian should ever have to hire a lawyer like Brian to sue the city because they don't feel listened to. And it's funny because when we talk about Bridgeland, when we talk about Martel Loop, when we talk about what's going on Stephen Avenue, remember these are all small businesses. Sonia used to head up the small business committee, but then she got elected and stopped listening. So let's just point out the fact that it is City Council's responsibility to be the people on the street, to hear what the voices are saying, and to represent in council those voices, because nobody should ever have to sue the City of Calgary to be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. That concludes our third question, and I'm so glad that everybody has been bringing up small business, because guess what? Our fourth question is about the importance of small business in the community.
Listen, I got to say before you ask this question, if I might, I know we're building the new Workland Centre, but did somebody turn the heat off in here? Because it's
I'm
really
wondering
cold.
the same thing. It is cold, yes.
Okay.
Just talk faster, it'll help.
You'd think there's a lot of hot air up here, but there isn't.
I was hoping for the lights to heat us up, but that's actually not happening. Small and medium-sized enterprises make up over 95% of Calgary's business community and are critical to innovation and job creation and economic resiliency. How will you reduce barriers such as permitting delays, tax competitiveness, and workforce challenges so that entrepreneurs can grow and scale here instead of looking elsewhere? We hosted Dave Mackay of the Royal Bank today, and he focused on those three things. Time is money, and that to a small business means a lot. A day, an hour. We want to hear from you in terms of what you're going to do to enable the entrepreneurial community to continue to grow. And Mr. Farkas, we'll start with you.
The first one is macro. I think we need to lean in here in Calgary in our leadership role in Team Canada. I hear from businesses every single day who talk about the lack of certainty from the regulatory environment in terms of a lot of the talk and the rhetoric around Alberta separatism. I'm seeking a mandate to very strongly push back against that, to lean in a leadership role as part of Team Canada. And when it comes to municipal government, there's really two pieces, right? There's the cost of government when it comes to fees, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to disruptions that those local businesses are feeling due to municipal actions. And then there's the regulatory uncertainty when it comes to the fees, the permitting, the delays that are experienced. So my policy calls for respect for every dollar. It's starting with a zero-based review, ensuring that we're spending every dollar that's sent to City Hall wisely so that budgeting is transparent, that it's responsible, so that we're not burdening those small businesses needlessly. And it's calling for mandatory approvals as well on the other side to address the uncertainty, to be able to better streamline permitting, to be able to have a digital one window. We need to be able to modernize how our local government serves small businesses, not just in terms of the property tax burden that's flowed through in terms of leases, but also the regulatory environment that those small businesses experience in terms of interacting with municipal permitting.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Thiessen, how will you reduce barriers for small and medium-sized enterprises so that entrepreneurs can grow and scale in Calgary?
Yeah, so there's a number of barriers that face small businesses. Some of them are economic, and so we need to increase funding and support through organizations like OSIF that provide funding for startup tech companies and other entrepreneurs that are seeking to start up a business in Calgary. The other economic incentives we can provide, as I mentioned earlier, were for the creative industry in Calgary. So we can provide financial supports and startup costs for them as well. But we also should be providing mentor support and small business mentors from veterans in the business industry to support them as they grow. But we also need to look at things like using technology to help us. Edmonton has actually pursued a very sophisticated AI program that helps with their permitting program. And they tell us that they've moved the permitting program down from 10 weeks to 3 days. Calgary is studying that process, but I think we shouldn't study it. I think we should buy Edmonton's. I think we need to start treating small businesses like the essential engines of the economy that they are. That means everything I talked about a Dig Once policy, but it also means supporting them and recognizing them and doing business with them and making sure that we provide the supports they need every day, that we don't build a beautiful road in Bridgeland and Marda Loop, and all of the businesses are out of business before we complete the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Mr. Davison, how do you plan to reduce barriers for small and medium-sized enterprises to ensure entrepreneurs choose to stay in Calgary rather than go somewhere else?
I thought for a minute when Brian was talking about the road, he was going to do a Trump impression. He kept saying the beautiful road. I was waiting for it.
Beautiful road.
Beautiful road, yeah. We'll do, afterwards you can see us and we'll all do our best Trump impressions.
Please don't.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to competitiveness, let's remember that small business in our city is the largest employer in our city. And so it starts by actually partnering with the chamber and listening to what's going on. I think it's about tax shift, it's about tax freeze, and it's about actually competing differently in a world where we do just have to compete differently. There's lots of jurisdictions out there looking to draw talent and looking for business opportunities. Calgary is in a very unique position. We're the entrepreneurial hub of the world. We have opportunity and smart people moving here. I think it's all about how do we look at the future of Calgary. And so, you know, as a former city councillor, I sat on Calgary Economics Board for 4 years. I helped champion, stood up in city council and got the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund focused. We got tech investment in our city that's now returning $1.1 billion of economic return. I stood up in council and asked them to say, we need a downtown strategy. We need to fix what's going on, which includes office to residential conversions. It includes filling up spaces because we can't continue to push the tax loss burden from the downtown onto small businesses in our community. It just doesn't work. So, you know, rather than sit around waiting for the phone to ring, and even learning from my time at Invest Alberta, it's about getting out to the world and telling our story and becoming a point of attraction again so that we can provide new opportunities, and in particular for young people. Again, young people aren't leaving to go to other jurisdictions because the tax break is better. They're looking for a vibrant city. They're looking for new opportunities, and that's where economic diversification is going to matter in solving the overall tax and competitive challenge that Calgary is facing.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Got quite the cheering section. Ms. Sharp.
Thank you. Well, the businesses in Calgary are the backbone of our economy. And as Jeff Davison had mentioned, yeah, I did lead the business and local economy team. I also speared up the Business Advisory Committee, which was a committee of council, which Mr. Davison sat on his last year, which he utilized to run. So I feel like I took a shot there, but I think I actually helped the last campaign too. But anyways, but one thing that we need to change at the City of Calgary is the business and local economy team, which I did lead, was to press down in the organization with a reorg. That needs to be elevated again, and it needs to be top of the corporation so that businesses have a one-window conduit. When there's issues, when there's permitting issues, when we were leading the business and local economy team during COVID, we were trailblazers and removing red tape so that businesses like restaurants could have patios on the street. So we need to continue that. And you know, during the crisis of COVID, Calgary was actually trailblazing. We were breaking barriers that other cities around Canada were actually calling us to find out what we were doing so well. And so we need to leverage that. And then the other thing we have to talk about that we don't talk about enough is newcomers to the city. Obviously English is a barrier for them, and some of these new businesses in Calgary are run by newcomers to Calgary, and so there needs to be more of an understanding on how they can operate a business and work with that conduit at the City of Calgary to get their permits. And the permit timeline, to be completely honest, it can be reduced. The cost also for red tape when it comes to business licenses can be removed. And those are things I'd like to see the business and local economy team do once we can get them right back at the top of the corporation.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Ms. Gondek.
You know, we did something a few years back called the Center City Enterprise District, and by having that program in place, we were able to ensure that businesses that wanted to open in existing buildings had the permission to do so. Our bylaw had been so restrictive that you couldn't open a dentist's office or a doggy daycare in a vacant space because the bylaw required parking. So people within the city administration came up with a great idea and said, let's just allow these businesses to operate and not worry about the parking, because there are parkades downtown. And since that time, we have seen dentist offices, doggy daycares, flower shops, all types of small businesses thrive in places that they were prohibited from being in. So let's listen to our administration and figure out how we can cut this red tape and get more small businesses into places they deserve to be. Let's also talk about our procurement at the city. We should be doing everything we can to use small business in our city to deliver the services that we need. We shouldn't be looking outside. There's businesses here that can do it. And let me bring up the ugly reality of property taxes. Small businesses and business in general are paying $5 to every $1 that residential properties are paying when it comes to their property taxes. That imbalance has cost us a lot of business. And frankly, we have heard from the Chamber consistently for 8 years that I've been serving that we need to do more for small business when it comes to property taxes. I've been the one that's led this charge and said we can't keep our business community floating if we are penalizing them with property taxes in this way.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. So we're now going to move into the response and rebuttal in the same order as before. You have 1 minute to respond, and I will raise my hand at the when you have 15 seconds remaining. Mr. Farkas, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I want to lean in a couple numbers. So it's a third of Calgary today who is not born in North America. And at the same time, we have one of the most educated, youngest workforces. So what is this? Those two facts, for them to be the same true at the same time, means that it's the world's best people who are coming to Calgary to be able to solve these problems. We've had a lot of opportunities to be able to engage with youth from every corner of the city in our campaign. Some incredible volunteers are part of it and here tonight. We've released a youth policy to be able to lean in on how we can better engage youth for early employment, work at the city, how can we can engage them in terms of recognizing their contributions. But one of the major issues that we hear is just the precariousness of housing. Housing is one of the key pieces right now, and I would say probably one of the top existential issues for us as a city. So for us to be able to address housing precariousness, to be able to ensure that the talent can afford to stay here in Calgary, I think that that's also one of the best ways to be able to ensure that our local small businesses and entrepreneurs can continue to remain competitive.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Thiessen.
Yeah, I would just add one thing. You know, the mayor is also an ambassador for the city and attracting talent and investment. And when I look at what's happening in the US right now with H-1B visas, $100,000 charge on those, we have an amazing opportunity to attract talent from around the world. And we also have a very welcoming city that brings in newcomers and brings them into our economy. And if we can combine that, that can be our superpower. We can attract talent from around the world. Right now, tech companies from around the world are looking north of the US. And if Calgary supports newcomers coming to this city, we can build an amazing tech industry in Calgary. And I hope we capitalize on that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Mr. Davison.
Well, I do find it amazing about an election that people with a seat at the table 4 years into it all of a sudden have new ideas about how we're going to remain competitive. So that just sounds rich. I mean, at the end of the day, bureaucracy can help reduce red tape, yes, but only competitiveness can only be addressed by the business community themselves. And I can't stress how much listening to members of the Chamber and working with the Chamber and talking about how we actually fix the tax shift is incredibly important. Again, small business in our city is the #1 employer. It is critical we get this right and those doors remain open.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Sharp.
Yeah, I think what's important when we talk about the tax shift, because it obviously comes up every budget discussion, is it's complex. And one of the pledges that we put forward through myself and Communities First is the finance and corporate services, so we can have administration come to a committee looking at line item by line item every quarter. But the one thing that we're not really getting answers on is quantifying the tax revenues generated from all the new homes under construction. And we keep kind of asking this question over and over, and we need some answers on that, because that will make a difference on what we look at when it comes to this shift, when it comes to residential generating revenue, residential taxes generating revenue, in order for us to quantify the tax shift. The tax shift is complicated, but until we understand exactly where administration is putting money and we can keep that tax rate low, because that's what we can control, then we can have the more, I would say, strategic conversation on where the tax shift has to lie, because our small businesses, they're paying the brunt, but they're also residential taxpayers as well.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Ms. Gondek, the floor is yours.
You know, the tech sector in Calgary is the fastest growing in this nation. We are recognized as being one of the fastest growing in North America, and that's because we've supported talent to come to our city. The Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, which we created in my previous term, has been topped up again this term to make sure that we can continue to attract that kind of talent. And as a result, I can tell you that within the clean tech sector alone, 51% of those people have never been a founder, and they've met with success in our city. 26% of those founders were born outside this country, 21% are female. That last number matters because they only have access to 2% of all the capital out there. We are doing something right here.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek, and that concludes our questions for the evening. I just want to point out one thing. We've talked about small businesses, we've talked about entrepreneurship. None of you mentioned the University of Calgary, which generates more startups than any other university in the country. And has done that for 6 years in a row. That's been a very important part of our success as a city. So just wanted to point that out.
Entrepreneurial school of the world.
I'm going to be in so much trouble from Joey Nowak, who works at Innovate Calgary at the University of Calgary and is the Calgary Party candidate for Ward 1. Sorry, Joey.
So with that, we are approaching the end of our debate, and we'll move into closing remarks from each candidate. So each of you will have 2 minutes to leave the audience with your vision for Calgary. And Mr. Davison, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much once again to the Chamber and all your partners for hosting tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an incredibly important election. Don't let anybody tell you that this is a two-horse race. I think the advanced polls will tell you it is not. Don't believe anybody who pays for polls trying to convince you that they're in a position they're not. I started at the beginning of this, and I'm going to say it again. Calgary is the greatest city on earth, and we are going to continue to make it that way. And I know we have challenges with affordability and infrastructure and public safety, and we're going to address them all. I know people are feeling the pressures of affordability. That's why we're talking about a 4-year tax freeze. And please don't let anyone on this stage convince you it's not possible. In a year where we have a $220 million surplus in the first 6 months of this year, I can tell you that's a 12% property tax reduction. A freeze is doable, and we can do it by maintaining services. I can tell you that we're going to roll back the blanket rezoning. I can tell you we're going to develop this city differently and keep up with the pace of growth. And I can promise you this, as your mayor, 4 years from now, you can hold me to account, because I do want seniors to be able to walk around downtown. I do want my teenager to be able to take the C train. And I actually appreciate walking around communities where I myself don't have to look over my shoulder just because I think it's dark out. This is the Calgary that we need to build. A thriving economy, a thriving city, one that is vibrant, one that competes, and it's all possible to do with your help. So my name is Jeff Davison. October 20th, I am asking to be your next mayor, and I'm asking you to help me build a safe and affordable city of opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Sharp, you're next.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. And no, this isn't a two-horse race, it's a three-horse race. And you have two options in front of you. Counts, you have two options in front of you. You have Bear Gondek and Jeremy Farkas, who are the same option. They're going to keep the city going on the same track. Or if you want change, you have me. I have 16 years of business experience, 20 years of the inside, and now 4 years of elected official capacity. That is 24 years of public service. I have seen the city from all different angles. I have a team of 9, 10 included me. We all know it takes 8 votes to get things done. We believe in repealing blanket rezoning, period. We believe in public safety. That's the 500 police officers that we were endorsed the CPA. We talk about safety coming to our venues. We talk about public safety on our trains, and we talk about sleeping better at night in your communities. So those are the things we believe in. And we also believe in taking things in a different direction. At senior administration, reports to council, you report to us. So if you want change and you want to trust somebody to lead this city, then you vote for Sonia Sharp. I wanted to say thank you so much for everybody, all your outpouring support, the donations that you've given me so far, and everything that you're doing when we come to the doors. So Calgary, again, 2 options. 1 option, 2 option, 3-horse race. And I'm the change that Calgary needs. So if you want a safe, affordable city, I'm sorry, is that rude?
That's rude.
That's
Yeah,
rude,
that was
Jeff
not called
Davison
for.
team.
Yeah.
That's really rude. So can I start my last statement?
Yeah.
So if you want a safe and affordable
drag
city
me into this.
with someone you can trust, please elect me on October 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Mr. Thiessen.
Thank you. I love this city. It's where I built my career, met my wife, and raised my family. But we're in trouble. Over a decade, The Economist ranked Calgary in the top 5 cities of the world to live. Now we're 18th and falling. This is not just a statistic, this is a warning sign. In this election, you have a choice. You can elect a mayor who does not listen and will not lead. You can elect one of the 3 amigos, Mr. Sharp, Davison, Mrs. Sharp, Davison, and Mr. Farkas, all of whom are fighting for the opportunity to work for Danielle Smith as she cuts your budget, increases your property tax, and defunds your police. But there's a third option. You can have a mayor who has a public safety plan endorsed by the Calgary Police as well as social agencies. A mayor who wants to make housing affordable, infrastructure reliable, and transit you can trust. You can have a mayor who celebrates small businesses, entrepreneurs, and artists as the engines of the economy that they are. I'm not a career politician. I don't know how to have a record and talk my way out of the record. But I don't think we need any more of those talkers. I think we need real leadership. I have the experience, I have the plan, and I'm ready to get to work and serve Calgary. You have a real choice, real leadership and a real plan, or more of the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Ms. Gondek, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you who came tonight to participate in democracy. I want to thank my fellow candidates for being here. Deb, thank you so much for hosting this. It's when we participate in democracy like this that you are able to understand who amongst us brings you a vision and who's simply bringing you sound bites. And I think that's important. Over the last 4 years, I have demonstrated to you that I can lead this city with determination and purpose. And over that time, we have received so much investment. We are at a point in our city where we have $15 billion worth of construction projects happening in the next 3 to 5 years. The Calgary Construction Association will tell you we haven't seen numbers like this since 2008. We finally got shovels in the ground on the Green Line, and we did that through persistence and collaboration. We created a housing strategy that is the envy of the nation. We received $256 million from the federal government to deliver on that strategy. We are leading the country on housing starts, and we are ensuring that affordable housing is available in our city so that everyone has a home within which they can live with dignity. These are the foundational elements that we have done over my past term. We have also ensured that we will become the strongest inland port in this nation. There is work to do to execute on all of that. I know the work's not done yet. If you want a trusted leader, someone who's had a steady hand and gotten us through both the positives and the crises that we have encountered, I'm the one that's gotten us there. I'm looking for your support on October 20th because consistency and stability matters right now more than ever before. We are going to write a great chapter of opportunity for all of us together, and it deserves steady leadership and someone who can act decisively and keeps you at the heart of every decision. And I'm going to end by saying, Alex Sarian wrote yesterday that leadership is measured not by how sharply we criticize, but by how clearly we inspire. And I would like to inspire you.
Thank you, Ms. Gondek. I did hear from Alex just beforehand, and he was wishing us a successful and inspiring evening. So there we go. That leaves you to close us out, Mr. Farkas. You're the batting sweep. Go ahead.
Well, thank you all for being here, and it's with great humility that I stand on a stage like this, and I ask for a second opportunity to be able to serve as your mayor. I know from the arrows that I took tonight that it's quite challenging to be in a position like this, to have the courage and humility to be able to admit when I was wrong and admit that I was willing to look at the evidence and change my mind. And that's really why I'm here. It's to be able to serve with honor, to be your next mayor. It's to advance the solutions that we need to be able to move forward as a city. If you take a look at our website, we put forward some incredible policy. Firstly, on mobility, making sure that we can continue to move, that we continue to invest in our transportation network. On safety, being tough not just on crime, but the causes of crime. On being a welcoming city, continuing to embrace our status as a destination of choice for newcomers. On the arts, not just investing in the downtown, but making the arts relevant in every single corner of the city, every single Calgarian, no matter where they live. On parks and public spaces, wanting to make sure that we continue to invest in activating the places that bring us together and allow us to learn more about each other. But the reason I'm on the stage is to be able to ensure that every single Calgarian has access to what I got as a kid growing up in East Calgary, a safe and affordable life where I felt welcome. And that's really why I'm in this race. You've seen me growing up over the last 10 years, serving as a nonprofit CEO, serving in the front lines of the social sector. So my name is Jeremy Farkas. I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them. I've led through challenge and change, and I need your vote to do what no one else on this stage can, to keep political parties from taking over our city council, to keep political parties from taking over our city council, to change the direction of City Hall, and to deliver our promise of Calgary. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. And for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, the Blue Jays are winning 5-1 at the top of the 8th.
The most important.
I've had a little baseball on my mind. That brings us to the end of our Calgary mayoral debate. I want to thank you all for your insights, for your honesty, and for the spirited and honest discussion. It's been a great pleasure to be able to moderate this conversation tonight. I want to thank everybody in the audience for your spirited response to our candidates and the answers to the questions, and for joining us here to discuss the future of Calgary. The city is very important to all of us. That's why we're here. That's why we have the candidates on the stage. They believe in the future of the city, and then it'll be up to you on the 20th of October in terms of who you choose. Now, I know we didn't get to all your questions, but we will be sharing them with the candidates so they know what's top of mind for you. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Black, who serves as the President and CEO of the Calgary Construction Association. Bill has been involved in the design and construction industry for nearly 4 decades. He's held roles ranging from surveying and estimating to leadership and executive positions. And through his diverse network of industry practitioners and thought leaders, he is a fixture in the construction community and the industry at large. Please join me in welcoming Bill Black.
Good evening, and thank you, Deborah. and your team for the work that goes into this event. We know firsthand that events like this don't happen overnight. It takes a small village and a lot of vision and a ton of collaboration. So thank you, Deborah, to you and her team. And I also want to express my personal and our collective thanks to our candidates. This is not a commitment that I imagine just happens at the drop of a hat. It takes a degree of courage and conviction, a deep sense of service, and one hell of a work ethic. And so you have contributed to an important conversation about where Calgary is headed, and thank you for your commitment in this discussion tonight. For us in construction, the challenges that face our city are our day job. The physical challenges of infrastructure, trying to deliver projects, trying to maintain schedules, trying to find a way to secure a workforce are what we do every day. And Calgary, as we've heard, is carrying a significant infrastructure budget. The resources to deal with that, as was actually pointed out this evening, are in the industry that is within our city. It needs partnership with industry. This doesn't happen through a low-bid procurement. It takes a lot more upfront thought and planning than that. And at the same time that we're suffering from this deficit in our current infrastructure, we're growing. We have the third increase in housing starts year over year, 3 years in a row, by our friends in the residential industry. We have $15 to $20 billion of major projects, none of which are office buildings. These are different projects. They're transportation, they're manufacturing and distribution, they're entertainment, they're public realm. And none of them are being fueled by the typical energy boom that we normally have relied on historically for these kind of levels of activity. The playbooks we all used in the past to deal with our boom and bust cycles don't apply in the reality we're sitting in today. And that's the same for mayors and city councils. We're not looking at 3 to 5 years of boom followed by falling off a cliff. Calgary is in for the ride of its life, and the built environment will be front and center of that. And the leadership that partners with industry, that listens to communities, balances fiscal responsibility with bold vision for the future is what we need. Our industry is ready. Calgarians are ready. I landed here 34 years ago with $500, a guitar, and a suitcase of clothes. I'm living proof this is the best city in the world. Opportunity is around every corner. So in closing, to each one of you who is here and who has tuned in tonight, the decision is now yours. That's the beauty of democracy. These choices belong to the citizens of Calgary, so I urge you to reflect everything you have heard, and most importantly, vote. Your voice is what will shape the Calgary of tomorrow. You shape the mayor and city council, we'll build the city you've never dreamed of. Thank you for our partners with the Chamber, for our candidates, for each and every one of you. Thank you for joining in this conversation. We want to ensure the best future for Calgary and build it one brick at a time. Thank you all.